ever here? You ever notice that the information that we're being fed doesn't always add up to the truth? Do you ever look out your window at night when the rain's falling down? You ever look down the street and wonder what is going on around you? You ever look out at night and ask yourself, is this all that I am? Where am I? What am I? Is this all there is? Is this real life? As technology continues to bring us closer together, it also tears us further apart. We watch the skies and look at the planet around us and its natural beauty as it continues to march forward on and on and on, unending, unceasing, unwavering. And yet our world, everything that we've built, crumbles around us. We wonder, is this it? Is there more? There's gotta be. We can search. We want to learn. We want to understand. We want to see all that we can see, know that all that we can know. We want to look out there. We want to peek behind the veil. We want to ask the questions that nobody will answer. We want to light those fires, the sparks that ignite a curiosity in us. And we ask ourselves, what is out beyond all of that? Beyond the edge of reality. Good evening, everyone. It's Kaiser. It is time for the Edge of Reality. It is Thursday, and yeah, we are slightly off our usual schedule, but yesterday I needed to take time off, rest the old vocal cords. Still got a little bit of a cough today, but I'm feeling a lot better, sounding a lot better, and I am very happy to share all of this with you today. So thank you all coming on out. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we got to say a very, 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 very special thank you to Flux for redirecting her audience over here to us to come help and hang out with us, learn a little bit, talk about some fun things. So everybody, definitely go ahead and give Flux a good old-fashioned thank you. All right. Yes, it has been quite a day, and I am so happy to be enjoying this with you all here. There are currently 18 of you tuning in from the start of the show. My goodness, I think that is a record for us here. Let's go down the list and say hi to everybody. Ellie Font, how you doing? AP first. Valhalla waits, Kaiser. Hey, what's going on, Valhalla? And Flux, Weirdly, y'all. Mustang, McCracken, doing the Ricada and wait another hour. John H 2004, how you doing? Ghostery, good day, chat. JKD Buck 76, Hawking once said it wasn't possible, but because of feedback, he wasn't infallible. However, yes, that is true. And Short Order Cook 1, hi there, Kaiser Pineapple. Hi there, time travelers. Hey, y'all. And for those of you watching this in the future, whenever we have the replay crew going, howdy from the past. And Mrs. K. Griff, hey, chat. Hey, also, hi, Kaiser. There you go. Okay, and Jude Curio, Kaiser, yes. Hey, Murph's Turf and HT. Good to see y'all. Fantastic. We have got a full house tonight, and I could not think of a more fun topic for tonight. You all requested it last week, and honestly, it was super nice to not have to really think about which topic I'm going to cover tonight. It was great to just be like, okay, I already have a topic. The audience requested it, so here we go. We're doing it. That was really cool. So I think we're going to keep that trend up. I'm going to later on post in the chat a new poll for what we are going to do next week for Edge Reality. For that, I'll have to bring up my little list of different topics. Likewise, if you have a particular topic that you like, that you want to go ahead and suggest for a future episode of The Edge of Reality, I highly recommend you do so, and you can do so by joining my Discord. Yes, in the pinned comment up above, and yes, I did refresh the link. It's good. You can go ahead and join my Discord server, Kaiser's Pineapple Express Lounge. You can go in, hang out, talk amongst everybody, and we have a special little room down there, and that is specifically for the unexplained. And you can feel free to suggest suggest stories, suggest content for future episodes, and engage with your fellow weird peoples out there. What is going on and see what happens. So that is an option for y'all. We also have all kinds of other chat and stuff that we do. Kaiser's Kitchen is there. So if you ever want to get hungry looking at all the food that I cook and everything like that, that's a good place to find it. So there we are. House cleaning adjourned on that end. Miss K. Griff says, definitely join the Discord. Avoid Kaiser's Kitchen if you don't want to get hungry, though. Oh, yeah. I make a lot of people hungry with that there. Cool Gamer, what's going on? Good to see you there. Awesome. All right, folks. Well, usually we have a nice little spell before we get into the actual topic for the evening. We sit, kind of talk, and let everybody file in, but everybody's already here. So I figure, what the hey? Let's go ahead and get into it, y'all. Let's go ahead and start this show. We got to ask ourselves, what is this case? Okay. So let's actually start with the poll. And I'm going to go ahead and end the poll because I want to see where y'all are at. So, do you believe time travel is possible? 54% unsure, 36% yes, 9% no. Total 11 votes. Okay, very cool. Yeah, it's definitely a question out there. Now, I have my own beliefs on that. I think time travel is possible. And the reason I do is because of, well, allegedly some of the claims made by Bob Lazar. If you can control gravity, which, well, allegedly these UFOs travel in a, bubble of anti-gravity. If that does happen to have any truth or validity to it whatsoever, or if we could find a way to harness or create gravity, then basically we could time travel. Because at that point, it doesn't matter. You can create gravity. You can create black holes. And guess what? That happens to be part of tonight's topic. So, let's talk about who is John Titor. So, let's get going here. And I've just pulled a couple quick little things here so that way we can watch and we can kind of get up to speed on this. So let's ask, who is John Titor?
John Titor. A mysterious figure emerged on the Time Travel Institute's online forum in the early days of the new millennium. On November 2nd, 2000, a user named TimeTravel_0 began to post, with each message signed by an intricate symbol, later revealed to be a military insignia from an alleged future time. The user described the theoretical 6 parts of a working time machine, which he claimed as utilizing dual microsingularities controlled by an electron injection manifold that could manipulate their mass and gravity. The individual behind these intriguing posts didn't adopt the name John Titor until January 2001, when he began posting on the Art Bell BBS forums, sparking curiosity and skepticism in equal measure. Titor, as he was now known, presented a fascinating narrative. He claimed to be an American soldier from the year 2036, dispatched on a secret mission to preempt a looming technological catastrophe. As proof of his extraordinary claims, Titor shared cryptic scans of the manual for his purported C-204 time displacement unit. His mission, he said, was a journey back to 1975 to procure an IBM 5100 computer. The machine was uniquely qualified to debug a future computer cataclysm known as the Unix 2038 error, a glitch that threatened to dwarf the infamous Y2K bug in its potential for chaos. Titor's posts were filled with unusual predictions, some eerily accurate, others wide of the mark. He foretold the 2001 discovery of miniature black holes by CERN, which, according to him, formed the basis of his time travel technology. However, his warnings of a U.S. civil war following a contentious election failed to materialize. Titor attributed this.
Seems like we're closer to that, than ever, honestly.
To the many worlds theory of quantum mechanics, suggesting the existence of multiple timelines. Among his captivating claims was a hypothesis that UFOs and their extraterrestrial occupants might, in fact, be highly advanced time travelers from an even more distant future, a mystery that, even in his time, remained unsolved. Without warning or explanation, John Titor's post ceased in March 2001. His identity remains a mystery, with his extraordinary tale hovering between the realms of fact and fiction. Despite an investigation suggesting that Titor might be the creation of a Florida entertainment lawyer and his computer scientist brother, the mystery of John Titor endures in internet lore.
All right, so that is the introduction to this tale about John Titor and the infamous 2038 problem. So let's ask a little bit of a question here. First of all, what is the problem with 2038? So yeah, I already see some of you are already commenting. Okay. Ghostery says, I thought Bob Lazar has truth within untruths. Look, there's a lot of curiosity about the guy. I tend to think that there are certain things that he's saying that I think may actually be truthful. I'm not taking everything that he says at face value. Honestly, I'm just kind of, based on my own experiences and research, I think that there is some merit to what he says, but that's just my take on it. I could be very much wrong. AP, time travel in sense of Back to the Future, maybe in reality so far, traveling to a different time zone is time travel. Yeah. I wasn't expecting the accent. Flux capacitors back order. Note to self, do not go on servers. Oh, okay. All right. Sounds kind of Sean Connery. Sorry, I must have lost you there, Elephant. Sheldon Cooper approves. AP says Unix, a Unix computer system? Suspect. Okay, so this is where we're going to get into why that specific type of computer, which always kind of made me a little curious too, as to why would this 1973 Unix computer be that big of a deal? Well, turns out that there's actually some interesting validity to it. Hey, what's going on, Kristen? Fantastic. Ghostery, my TI-84 would have more reasons to attract a time traveler. All right. Reversal Earth gravity. Yep. Ghostery says, no matter what, I still love you, your stuff, guys. Well, thank you, Ghostery. All right. Shorter Cook says, I'll be listening and gotta go feed the animals in the paddock. Well, enjoy that. Give them a little scratch behind the ears for me. There we go. Hey, and Iris just arrived. What's going on, Iris? All right. So now we got to ask ourselves, okay, so John Titor, okay, it's supposed to be Titor. The AI that reads that script says Titor. Sorry, I get tripped up. Okay. So according to this, so John Titor is this guy who just showed up and he talked about the 2038 problem. What is the 2038 problem? Well, turns out that we have an answer to that. And actually, we can thank the Aussies. The Independent Australia has an article, The Year 2038, the Day We Run Out of Time. And this actually was posted not that long ago. Actually, as of January of 2022 is when this article came out. All right. So computer systems that use the time for critical computations may encounter Fatal errors if the Y2038 problem is not addressed. The year 2038 problem relates to representing time in many digital systems as the number of seconds passed since 000000 universal universal time code, or UTC, on January 1st, 1970, and storing it as a signed 32-bit integer. All right. There we go. Such implementations cannot encode times after 03:14:07. So basically 3 a.m. is like 3:14 and 7 seconds. Is like universal time code on 19th of January 2038. At that time, systems might crash and will be unable to restart when the time is changed to that date. So that might ask a lot of questions. It sounds like Y2K all over again. Well, it's like Y2K, but actually worse. It's like the Y2K problem, which was caused by widespread use of 2 decimal digits to store the year. While that problem was overhyped, at the same time, a frantic effort to fix the problem was certainly assisted by preventing widespread computer distribution, or was assisted in preventing widespread computer disruption. So they were able to fix that problem and actually change to a four integer code for the year. But this system counts, the Unix system counts time in seconds relative to the date that it was turned on. And it can only count so high. One of the problems with the Y2K issue was that many organizations left it to the last minute to fix their systems to prevent the disruption. One could argue that lessons may have been learned and that the year 2038 problem will be fixed well before the deadline. The Y2038 issue affects all computer code that uses 32 bits for time values. Systems that do not require access to dates are not affected by this problem. In a 32-bit computer system, the representation for time is a signed 32-bit integer, so basically a number, containing the numbers of seconds since January 1st, 1970. This value will overflow on January 19th, 2038. The solution is to transition to 64-bit time support. With 64 bits, there is more than enough room to store time values far past the foreseeable future, even if high-resolution nanosecond-based time values are used. Okay. And let's see here. Hey, it's me, Josie81. What's going on? Good to see you. And let's see, Iris. I hope and pray my computers crash and I get home early from work. Why wait to 2038? Do it the next year or around March or April while I'm on vacation. Yeah, Mustang McCracken says, I don't even know that Y2K was ever real at all. There's retro computers that work just fine and were never patched for it. Maybe online data banks might have been affected, though. Well, it was a lot of like other additional software that had the 2 integer, like for the year time code. Pretty much all of your Windows, Apple, and pretty much all your major computer systems still use the same Unix timecode system. They all still use the same method for counting time. So yeah, it doesn't matter what operating system you have, whether it's Windows, or if it's Apple or Unix or Linux or whatever, all of them use the same 32-bit system or 32 integer system that runs out in January of 2038. So, well, here's the thing, Ghost Street. So 64-bit, all Macs since 2007 have had 64-bit processors. Okay, so the processors have been switched over to a 64-bit processor. But typically a lot of systems, there are some exceptions, but a lot of systems have been using a 32-bit integer system for calculating time, even though they're running on a 32-bit operating system. I know that sounds crazy, but the way they still count time is the same, because as far as anybody was concerned, there's no reason to change the clocks. Well, that's been since figured out that, well, all this, the 2038 question, has been known to us for many years. And some of it may actually be because of this case of this gentleman by the name of John Titor, ringing the alarm bell and letting people know. And a lot of tech companies suddenly sat up and took notice and went, huh, he's right. All of our clocks will run out in 2038. That's a little closer than I'd be comfortable, because most of those people, even from 1970s, would probably still be alive, even though probably very old. So yeah, they decided maybe it's best if we go ahead and update. So in our current timeline, or the way things have been going, it's not going to be a problem for us now because we've already fixed the problem. But when this happened, when John Titor first exploded onto the scene in 1998, everything was still running on 32-bit. Everything. And it wasn't until the mid 2010s with, I believe it was Microsoft, gosh, might have been even Windows 7, that was introducing the first 64-bit operating system. So that's not been all that long ago. So significantly longer after this time frame. So they would have had time to implement changes in that time. That's just a theory on my end, but it is what it is. Mustang McCracken says, I don't even know that 2030. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, Y2K. You had the question on Y2K. So, yeah, Y2K was not a big deal because it really wasn't. Again, that was the time code, the way that the system counted time didn't change. But there were a lot of systems that used a year in, like, with a 2-digit, instead of saying 98 for 1998. Well, they realized that was a problem, and so they just added 2 more digits later on and said, okay, well, now it's 1990, say April 14th, 1998 is now 04 1998. And then eventually, whenever you pass Y2K, April 19th of 2000 is 04 19 2000. Yeah, and it's a lot more easy to fix than this 32-bit integer system. You're literally having to completely, so it's not a matter of changing 2 numbers to make it a little bit easier for the computer system to read it. So a Y2K was way overhyped. 2038 is the actual problem. And I'll be completely honest with you, it's a big issue. All right. I'm Not Obama says, this is why I like Kaiser Pineapple. You cover interesting topics instead of boring trials like everyone else. Well, hey, I think the trials are important, but at the same time, look, I get it. Need a little variety, and I'm here to add a little variety. Ghostery, I'm technically running an old OST that can run both 32 and 64-bit apps. I'm guessing that I'm okay until the hardware dies. Yeah, probably. Hey, Sherry Reed. Hey, all. I have an 11-hour drive in the morning, so busy getting things done, listening as I scramble. Lol. Well, hey, I totally get it, Sherry. I appreciate you dropping on by. I'm actually going to be on the road tomorrow myself, so, safe travels out there. AP, 15 years from now, my med issue could take me out at any moment. I don't have to worry. Oh, no. Iris says, I was working in accounting at the time. They were freaking out. Yeah. And accounting, yeah, because at that time, yeah, like I was saying, they used for the year, they just used the 2-digit date code. Nobody ever thought to change it. And having to change everything to a 4-digit date code, that's a little bit, I mean, that was a little bit of additional, programming, but it wasn't the end of the world. This, on the other hand, you don't just have to fix the clock, you have to completely reinvent the clock. Yeah, you have to completely reinvent it from the ground up. Ghost Free says Y2K was a legit thing. There were some minor interruptions on Y2K, but I'll be completely honest with you, it was way overhyped and way overblown. Ghost Ray, I think so. There's ways to sandbox 32-bit stuff to 64-bit OS 2. Old DOS games still running DOSBox fine. Iris says, how are we going to get to the Jetsons tech if we can't even tell time? Yeah. Not Obama says, yeah, I'm far from technologically advanced, but any possible problems from Y2K seemed like easy fixes. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and that's totally, I agree with you. Again, you're not changing the clock in terms of just changing a couple of numbers around. You're literally having to create an entirely new clock, basically. An entirely new way of telling time in the system. But the good news is that with the upgrade from 32-bit integer system to a 64-bit integer system, we've got a very long time, like millions of years, before this problem rears its ugly head again. I would hope that by that time we've either figured it out or we're just completely not using that at all. All right. But there's also other areas that require attention. Lots of devices, such as the current mobile handsets, are based on 32-bit computers. These devices will long since failed for any of several other reasons by then, so there's little point in ensuring that they can survive to 2038. But people keep cars going for a long time. There may still be routers, wireless access points, and IP cameras in use by then, and there is likely to be a lot of deeply embedded systems, such as building infrastructure. Some of these systems going to fail in 2038. That is why it is important to get the problem fixed as soon as possible. Trust me, I used to work, actually only a very short time ago, I used to work for I'm not going to say the name, but I used to work for a big box hardware store. And that big box hardware store that I used to work for still was using the same DOS based system from 1992. Or I'm sorry, not 1992, 1982. You heard me. They were still using the same DOS based inventory control system from 1982. And the thing is, I recently went to said big box hardware store. And yeah, I saw that they are still having to run that system on a separate computer. It's like, I can't believe it. Yeah. Yeah. 1982. Uh-huh. Yeah. It is an old as balls computer system. And it's one of the major hardware retailers. One of the big three. I'm not going to say which. Sounds like our court systems. Autocorrect has caused more problems than Y2K. I would agree with that. I'm using an Apple laptop. I hated Catalina and erased my machine to pull back the High Sierra. It was easy peasy, but taught me to respect the hardware. Yep, I agree. Gary from Nerdrotics said he still uses MS-DOS apps in order to order comic books at his comic store because that was what Diamond used to use. Yeah, there's a number of these companies that still use these ancient DOS-based systems for some reason. I'm not Obama says big box hardware store, Circuit City. You work? No, it was not Circuit City. I mean hardware, as in saws and power tools and lumber and that kind of things. Again, I'm not going to say which one. So anyway, all right, that kind of gives us a basic kind of information on what is the 2038 paradox. And let's also go ahead and kind of ask her, talk about about this when John Titor first arrived on the scene. Strangely enough, John Titor made his first actual appearance online. Well, not even online. Yes, home hardware. Yeah. And Miss K. Griff says, don't forget to do the YouTube things. Like, subscribe, comment, share, ring the bell for notifications. Yes, thank you, Miss K. Griff. Or, say, home hardware, or is that at a Canadian company? No, I'm in the United States. It's one of the big three hardware stores in the United States. That's as close as you're getting. All right. Anyway. So, believe it or not, one of the craziest parts about this whole story is that John Titor's first real appearance onto the scene was actually on Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. Back in 1998, July 29th, 1988, John Titor sent a fax to Art Bell on a time travel show. And we're going to listen to Art Bell actually read it. I'm going to turn that down.
Dear Art, I had to fax when I heard other time travelers calling in from any time past the year 2500 AD. Please let me explain. Time travel was invented in 2034. Offshoots of certain successful fusion reactor research allowed scientists at CERN to produce the world's first contained singularity engine. The basic design involves rotating singularities inside a magnetic field. By altering the speed and direction of rotation, you can travel both forward and backward in time. Time itself can be understood in terms of connected lines. When you go back in time, you travel on your original timeline. When you turn the singularity engine off, a new timeline is created due to the fact that you and your time machine are now there. In other words, a new universe is created. To get back to your original line, you must travel a split second farther back and immediately throw the engine into forward without turning it off. Some interesting outcomes of this are: 1. You meet yourself. I have done it often, even taken a younger version of myself along for a few rides before returning myself to the new timeline and going back to mine. 2. You can alter history in the new universe that you have just created. Most of the time, the changes are subtle. Sometimes I'll notice car models that don't exist or books that come out late. The oldest one was a skyscraper that wasn't built in a near-favorite store of mine in New York. Interestingly, when you travel in time, you must compensate for the orbit of the Earth. Since the time machine doesn't move, you have to adjust the engine so you remain on the planet when you turn it off. Unfortunately, it was also discovered that anyone going forward in time from my 2036 hit a brick wall in the year 2564. Everyone who has ever been there has reported that nothing exists. When the machine is turned off, you find yourself surrounded by blackness and silence. Whew. Now, most time travelers are trying to find out where the line went bad by going into the past, creating a new universe, and proceeding forward to see if the same thing results in 2564. It appears the line went bad around the year 2000. I'm here now, in this time, to test a few theories of mine before going forward. Now, for the future, you might want to know about. 1. Y2K is a disaster. Many people die on the highways when they freeze to death trying to get to warmer weather. 2. The government tries to keep power by instituting martial law, but all of it collapses when their efforts to bring the power back up fail. 3. A power facility in Denver is able to restart itself, but is mobbed by hundreds of thousands of people and destroyed. This convinces most that maybe we shouldn't bring the old system back up. 4. A few years later, communal government system is developed after the Constitution takes a few twists.
Okay, I'm sorry, but y'all, this just sounds wild. So you have to account for the fact that the Earth moves around the sun and that our planet is not in the same place from year to year. The entire galaxy, our entire galaxy is moving. Our entire galaxy is also spinning. So if you turn the machine on, you basically stop and you have to account for where your displacement is happening so you stay on the planet. That's a little bit wild. Yeah. Wait, he said Israel and Russia? Uh-huh. Yeah, you're going to notice some weird parallels coming around all of a sudden.
China retakes Taiwan. Israel wins the largest battle for their life, and Russia is covered in nuclear snow from their collapsed reactors. Art, the reason I'm here now is because I believe a nuclear weapon set off by Iraq in the Middle East war with Israel might have something to do with the damaged timeline. I will test that theory and get back to you. Please pray that we discover the reason why there is no apparent future after 2564. So I couldn't resist. I thought that was quite a good fax. There you have it.
That's pretty wild. Okay. And let's see here. Ghostery, maybe Kaiser will play the "You've Got Mail" sound effects for sentimental purposes. I wish. Let's say I want to time travel with myself. Yeah, that was interesting, but it makes kind of sense. Yeah. And I'm No Obama says I lived with dial-up for like 2 years of my childhood and hated it. I remember my dad yelling at me for picking up the phone. Yep. There's this weird nostalgic quality about it, but I don't think any of us wanted to actually go back to it. God, trying to look at porn back then was absolutely a nightmare. Oops, did I say that out loud? Meanwhile, back at the ranch. All right. Anyway, Ghostery said none of that Y2K stuff happened, but it sounds like great science fiction. Okay, so what's interesting is that even what some of they say here, okay, you have to take this little bit of a story and you have to listen to it within the context of what they're saying, the greater overarching narrative. Okay, let me be completely honest here. So yeah, I know you're that as far as we know, none of that happened. Here's the one question. Did you not pay attention and hear the moment where he said that every time that they travel to a different timeline, a new alternate timeline, a new alternate universe is created? So that means that every time that they make like a little bit of a change there, or that they do something, that they're literally traveling to multiple worlds. It's the many worlds theory. It's the, to use the really stupid, dumb terminology, it's the multiverse. It's not really a multiverse, but it's essentially where you have it's the many worlds theory, the many Earths theory. That there's alternate realities based on every decision and every variable that could ever exist ever. So yeah, Miss K. Griff said, wait, he said Israel and Russia. Yeah, apparently the Middle East goes to war with Israel. Where have I heard this one before? And then apparently Russia collapses under the weight of its own, budget. Where have I heard that one before? And then its reactors, all, blow up and basically go into Chernobyl mode, which again, before they retired, the RBMK reactors would have been a possibility. To date, I think there's only like 2 or 3 RBMK reactors still operating. They've all been switched over. Yeah, there's a lot of things there's a lot of weird and interesting differences, like parallels of things that we thought back in those days, back around 1998 and whatnot, that have changed since then. It's an odd thing to notice, but it's one thing that I've kind of picked up on. Yeah. Let's see. I got to catch up to the chat here. This is this is freaking me out more than the spooky episodes. Yeah, it's weird. Anytime we get into time travel, it's odd. Yeah, wouldn't have to travel not just through time but space. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, you have to move. Yeah. Mustang McCracken says they did have WMDs. Maybe. Murph's Turf says 2564 and peace. Mustang says, I missed dial up. It was awful, and I just didn't use the internet most of the time. Yep. Guys are like, this one time at band camp. Year 2564, could that be an old tech reference? There was a classic Western Electric 2564 model landline telephone. Huh. Interesting. Not entirely sure on that one. Hang on a second. I got to check something. My phone went off. Okay, there we go. I bet band camp was fun. Yeah, it probably would have been, but I was not actually in the band because I can't carry a tune in a bucket. I'm just saying. Let's see. I'm Not Obama says, what did he say about Israel and Russia, though? I missed it. They're kind of enemies due to different alliances. So specifically what he mentioned is that there is a war that breaks out in the Middle East. Let me actually just go back and Yeah, let's just play it again from that point.
Power facility in Denver is able to restart itself, but is mobbed by hundreds of thousands of people and destroyed. This convinces most that maybe we shouldn't bring the old system back up. 4. A few years later, communal government system is developed after the Constitution takes a few twists. China retakes Taiwan. Israel wins the largest battle for their life, and Russia is covered in nuclear snow from their collapsed reactors. Art, the reason I'm here now is because I believe a nuclear weapon set off by Iraq in the Middle East war with Israel might have something to do with the damaged timeline. I will test that theory and get back to you.
Okay, something I did notice here. What you notice this up here? This is actually from Russia Today. Iraq says terrorists seize nuclear materials, could use them for a bomb. Danger Will Robinson. Yeah, I said Russia will be in cold nuclear snow and Israel will win a war. Yep. Okay. Oh, you're welcome. And yeah, this is from Art Bell. All right, so that gets us caught up to where we're at. It's very interesting to kind of make that note. Let's see here. Hang on, I'm trying to find something here. Excuse me. All right. So that gets us through to that. I'm looking for something else really quick. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put this on. Okay. Okay. I'm going to adjust this a little bit. I have to run to the restroom, so I'm just going to put this video on so that way we can, like, I don't have to feel bad about leaving you guys. There we go. All right, and I'm just going to go ahead and let this roll. I will be back in a moment.
The United States of America endures a second civil war, killing millions. Immediately after that, a world war begins. Nuclear weapons are used. Billions are killed. The aftermath leaves the earth in ruins. Electric grids are down. Food becomes scarce. Disease is rampant. Society breaks down. Then in 2038, all computers go offline. Civilization is set back several hundred years. The world enters a second dark age. Only by changing events in our past and present can we avoid this nightmare of the future. In 1998, in a small town in Florida, John Titor was born. In the year 2036, John, a temporal soldier, would be sent back in time. His mission? Save the world. On July 29, 1998, Art Bell, host of Coast to Coast AM, was running what he called open timelines. He wanted calls from people who claimed to be time travelers. Obviously, this brought out plenty of kooks. But then a fax came in that felt eerily real.
Dear Art, I had a fax when I heard other time travelers calling in from any time past the year 2500 AD. Please let me explain. Time travel was invented in 2034. Offshoots of certain
Successful fusion reactor research allowed scientists at CERN to produce the world's first contained singularity engine. The basic design involves rotating singularities inside a magnetic field. By altering the speed and direction of rotation, you can travel both forward and backward in time. Time itself can be understood in terms of connected lines. When you go back in time, you travel on your original timeline. When you turn your singularity engine off, a new timeline is created due to the fact that you and your time machine are now there. Some interesting outcomes of this are: 1. You meet yourself. I have done it often, even taken a younger version of myself along for a few rides, before returning myself to the new timeline and going back to mine.
Is it just me, or is it really weird that you can meet yourself in this timeline situation? It's like, oh, hey, me. Yo, me. You want to go for a burrito? Yeah, sure. I mean, that's gotta mess with your mind. Not to mention, I'm sure there's some of those degenerates that are out there. Like, if you ever met yourself, okay. Well, first of all, the answer no, but just saying. And there's Miss K Griff saying it. Oh, yep. Yeah, it honestly sounds like a plot for Futurama and their AP. I'm not Obama. If I met myself, I'd have conflicting feelings. Do I lecture them or them? Ghostery says the word engine sounds a bit outdated to survive time traveling. Okay. Yeah, we all thought it. Yeah.
2. You can alter history in the new universe that you have just created. Most of the time, the changes are subtle. Sometimes I'll notice car models that don't exist or books that come out late. Unfortunately, it was also discovered that anyone going forward in time for my 2036 hit a brick wall in the year 2564. Please pray that we discover
the reason why there is no apparent future after 2564.
A few days later, a second fax came in.
Dear Mr. Bell, I'm glad you're back. I faxed this information to you the day before you left the air. As I said then, I'm a time traveler. I have been on this world line since April of this year and I plan to leave soon. Typically, time travelers do not purposely affect the world lines they visit. However, this mission is unusually long, and I've grown attached to some of the people I've met here. Anyway, for my own reasons, I have decided to help this world line by sharing information about the future with a few people, in the hope that it will help their future. I realize my claims are a bit difficult to accept, so I will send the following once I know you have received this fax. A few pages from the operations manual of my time machine, and a few colored photographs of my vehicle. If you wish to contact me, I will be happy to share with you the nature of time, the physics of time travel, and some of the events of your future.
Art Bell didn't hear from this person again, which was too bad because he offered to show proof. Everybody who heard that broadcast wanted to see a working time machine, learn the science behind time travel, and know events from the future. 2 years later, they would get their wish.
That's pretty interesting, that because usually what's weird about a lot of these tales and a lot of these weird things that happen is that the people that make these claims, they're like, oh, well, I mean, I'm making this claim, but I don't actually have a way to prove it to you. No. John Titor flat out says, oh, no, I'll just go ahead and send you some photos and bust open the owner's manual on my time displacement unit to prove to you that it works. Well, guess what I have? All 169 pages of, the method and gravity distortion and time displacement. Yeah. It's the complete theoretical physics and documentation of how this thing works. Yeah, it's a lot, but there's some really cool pictures further down. We'll let me just get to these. So yeah, this is where it kind of starts and kind of explains a little bit about time displacement. But there's some further pictures. I'm going to tease that one because we need to watch that, and we need to watch it to see that one in depth. But I want to make sure that we get a chance to explore this a little bit further first.
Time Traveler sent faxes to Art Bell. A user who called himself Time Traveler Zero and later John Titor created an account on a message board called the Time Travel Institute. On November 2nd, 2000, he submitted his first post.
Greetings. I am a time traveler from the year 2036. I am on my way home after getting an IBM 5100 computer system from the year 1975. My time machine is a stationary mass temporal displacement unit manufactured by General Electric. The unit is powered by two top-spin, dual-positive singularities that produce a standard offset Tipler sinusoid. I will be happy to post pictures of the unit.
Now, before we get into it, I have to be fair and say there were plenty of people on the message board who were skeptical, who wouldn't be. But John Titor was very specific and seemed to have very specialized knowledge. First off, a Tipler...
Yeah, that's where things get really interesting, is that he provides a lot of very interesting information, actual like details that normally when you have one of these supposed crackpot theories, you could just poke holes in their story all day. John Titor, it's a lot harder to poke holes in certain aspects of his story because even he admits that, you know, you're talking about time and relative, space and dimensions and that kind of thing. I almost literally just said time and relative dimensions and space. If you get that reference, good for you. I almost said it. Anyway, so again, he's providing some actual interesting real world applications based on this. And he claims that this damn thing is built by General Electric, which is a major government contractor. Yeah. Ms. K. Griff says, so they've obviously tried to build this by now, right? Well, that's the thing. Nobody apparently has. Because some of the technology is still, we don't have, I mean, while he gives he shows some interesting things, nobody's been able to replicate it. Jude says, Doctor Who, yep, that's correct. I'm not Obama. Tried to build a time machine when I was 4. Not successful, unfortunately. Yeah.
Tipler sinusoid, or Tipler cylinder, is a theoretical method of time travel outlined in a paper by Frank Tipler in 1974. So we're off to an interesting start. But what about the IBM 5100? Why would anyone with the technology to travel through time need a computer that was, in 2036, about 80 years old? Well, John Titor said the 5100 was needed to debug legacy computer programs in 2036 because Unix has a problem in 2038. Well, that's true. Remember the Y2K scare? The theory was hardware and software that measure the year in 2 digits would freak out when the year changed from 99 to 00. Now, the world didn't end as some people anticipated, but Y2K did cause some sporadic problems. Something similar is going to happen in 2038, and it could be worse. Unix systems measure time in seconds. A Unix timestamp is the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. So the Unix timestamp 1 minute after that date is 60. The timestamp 1 hour after that date is 3600, and up it goes. As I write this, the Unix timestamp is 166-413-1870, so about 1.6 billion seconds. Without getting too geeky, a 32-bit integer can only go as high as about 2.1 billion. The official last date that a 32-bit system can recognize is Tuesday, January 19th, 2038. After that, things could get interesting.
Ooh, interesting is never good.
It's not. And the way to solve this is by upgrading systems to 64 bits.
And how far in the future does that get us?
Well, the max 64-bit number is about 9.2 quintillion. So that gets us to the year 292 billion and change.
Oh, that should be enough.
It will be.
Yeah, I have to admit, look, this guy does some really good stuff. But yeah, I absolutely just despise this guy's voice. It really drives me crazy. Okay, so yeah, I'm not Obama. That other guy, oh yeah, okay. So yeah, I sped up this guy's voice because okay, so I as I always do, I alter the equalization of the voice a little bit. So that way it's a little bit off. And then I also speed up the video, so that way I try to kind of get around some of the fair use issues, because all of our clips that we show are used in accordance with fair use. Just want to make sure that everybody's aware. Anything that I use any of these videos, including this one that we are watching right now, is used under fair use.
So what does an old computer have to do with this?
Well, John Titor said the IBM 5100 could help them debug legacy code, and this is actually correct. Most personal computers, like the IBM 5100, could only support the basic programming language, but the 5100 had special functionality that was hidden from the public. It could run programs written in BASIC, but it could also run APL programs written for IBM mainframes. That's useful. Only the IBM engineers who designed it knew this secret. They were afraid of how competitors might use it. In 2002, NASA was buying old gear on eBay because that was the only way to find Intel 8086 chips, which they needed for various missions. So this is something that happens. So John Titor's first post contained a lot of sound science and information that wasn't well known at the time. But he was just getting started. John Titor was very active on the message board. He would answer any question anyone had. He just wouldn't talk about things like the stock market or who would win the Super Bowl. He said he wasn't interested in helping anyone get rich, and even if he was, he couldn't remember who won a Super Bowl 35 years ago. But John Titor also said that predictions like that could be wrong because he was from a different timeline, which he called a world line. How he explained it was, imagine a cone where the diameter of the cone is how different the destination time is from your own. You enter the time machine at the tip of the cone. The further backward or forward in time you go, the larger the divergence. Titor said that when he arrived in the year 2000, the divergence was about 1 or 2%. Now that's not a lot, but it's enough where different teams could win different games. What Titor is describing is the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, where anything that can possibly happen does happen. It just happens in a different timeline. Titor specifically referred to the Everett-Wheeler model, which again shows a good grasp of quantum mechanics and the scientists working in the field. And even though John Titor wouldn't make petty predictions, he would describe his life and the future in detail. John said that in the early 2000s, there would be a Waco-type event every month that steadily gets worse. The Civil War in the United States starts in 2004, and the war affects everyone. At the age of 13, John joins a shotgun infantry unit called the Fighting Diamondbacks, and the war continues until 2015 and finally ends with what he calls a very short World War III. Taking advantage of America's weakness, Russia attacked cities in the United States, China, and Europe. The United States retaliated, and as a result, 3 billion people are killed. The only people to survive are the ones who don't live in the big cities. In the aftermath of the war, the United States is split into 5 separate regions. Each region elects its own president, and all 5 presidents serve a new, very diminished federal government in the capital, which has been moved to Omaha, Nebraska.
In 2036, I live in Central Florida with my family, and I'm currently stationed at an army base in Tampa. A world war in 2015 killed nearly 3 billion people. The people that survived grew closer together. Life is centered on the family and then the community. I cannot imagine living even a few hundred miles away from my parents. There's no large industrial complex creating masses of useless food and recreational items. Food and livestock is grown and sold locally. People spend much more time reading and talking together face to face. Religion is taken seriously, and everyone can multiply and divide in their heads.
Boy, is it just me, or does that future not sound amazing compared to the crap that we have currently? And also the major cities are gone. Anyway, moving on. Yes, elephant. Yay, country folk live. See you later, AP. Good to have you. All right. Ghost says, yeah, I think you're correct, Shapiro, but I'm not sure of the other guy's name. Both voices are awful, technically. Yes. They kind of have that high pitch voice. It's just, yeah. And the microphone equalization is terrible. They like have the gain like really and the reverb like oversaturated on their mics. It's really bad. Yeah, I totally agree there, Elephant. I want to live there too. It sounds so nice. Hey, Danielle, good to see you. Good to see you. Country folk be like, yeah, bye, Felicia. Yeah. Yeah, when cold happened, we went through light. I was fine. Went without light, I was fine. Grew up a ranch. No problems with no light, just need water. Yep. Actually, I remember one time back in August, several years ago, it was the same time we had that that stage collapse at the Indiana State Fair. The same storm I got caught up in, but I was like 10 or 15 miles away at a birthday dinner with my parents. And yeah, that storm was intense, but it collapsed the stage at the Indiana State Fair right before Sugarland went on. And like a whole bunch of people died. But the storm itself was so bad, even like 25, 30 miles away, my parents' house where I was living at the time, yeah, the power got knocked out for a solid week. It was just so much damage. It took the whole area out for a week, but we had running water and we had generators and other usual equipment, and it was also the summer. So while it was hot and muggy and miserable in that way, we survived. It's fine. Yeah, Mustang McCracken. Major cities being gone sounds like paradise. Yep. Shapiro has that stereotypical nasally nerd voice. I agree. All the nerd voice, but yeah, he's kind of got that like pretentious, like smug nerd way he carries himself. I mean, hey, to each their own. We have our disagreements, but anywho, not going to turn this into a political show. All right. Ms. Kager, trying to figure out if I'm country folk or city folk. I'm a country boy who is unfortunately stuck in the burbs. So, trying to work on that. My wife is convinced that she finally wants to move somewhere where we can get some land and, actually have, grow vegetables and actually have our own garden, be a bit more self-sufficient, which I'm like, hell yes, let's do that. But, money, that's the problem. Anyway,
This new world is now a simpler place. More focus is placed on family, the community, and religion. The biggest fear John Titor has is mad cow disease, which has become a worldwide pandemic. John transfers into a military unit with 7 other time travelers, and their job is to go back and try and prevent as much environmental damage as possible. The narrative John Titor creates is very detailed, and I'll link to a page where you can read every one of his posts. And even though people on the message board were entertained and fascinated, they were skeptical. They wanted to know, 1, can you tell us how your time travel device works? And 2, can you show us a picture of it? The answer was yes, and yes. John Titor posted diagrams of his time travel device, pictures of the operator's manual, and even pictures of the device itself. According to John, time travel is discovered in 2034 by scientists at CERN. Using this breakthrough technology, General Electric actually creates working time travel devices. These machines go through various iterations and improvements. The time travel unit John Titor uses is a C204 gravity distortion time displacement unit, which operates using microsingularities, or tiny black holes.
The source of power for the C204 that allows it to distort and manipulate gravity comes from 2 microsingularities that were created, captured, and cleaned at a much larger and circular facility. The dual event horizons of each one and their mass is manipulated by ejecting electrons onto the surface of their respective ergospheres. The electricity comes from batteries. The breakthrough that will allow for this technology will occur within a year or so when CERN brings their larger facility online.
John Titor talks about Kerr black holes, which are black holes that rotate, and Tipler cylinders. Now, these are real theories in physics that involve time travel. One of the most interesting pieces of technology in John Titor's time machine is called a variable gravity lock system, or VGL. Since the machine only travels through time and not space, the VGL makes sure that the Earth is in the same place in orbit when it reaches its destination. Otherwise, you end up floating in space, which is not ideal.
The hard part of traveling through time is not the bending of gravity, but the plotting of your course and holding to the basic position in your environment. This is done through a system called VGL, Variable Gravity Lock. In effect, it holds you to the Earth. During travel, it periodically checks to see that the field is not varied. If it does, it stops and reverses course or drops out at that point. Buildings and other terrain features are avoided in the same way. As soon as the VGL sensors pick up an unexpected mass in the target world line, it would shut down.
The C204 has an array of computers, clocks, and sensors to get you to the correct date. But because timelines get more and more different the further forward or back you go, the unit maxes out at about 60 years. Someone asked him about traveling back 1,000 years. John said that you wouldn't even recognize that world.
The distortion unit reaches its target destination by using very sensitive gravity sensors and atomic clocks. The basic unit of calculation is the second. So yes, in a sense you do dial in a date and the computer system controls the distortion field. At maximum power, the unit I have is capable of traveling about 10 years an hour. Unfortunately, time travel is not an exact science. There is inherent error and chaos in the computer's ability to make accurate calculations. Based on the current technology of the clocks and sensors, distortion units are only accurate to about 60 years or so. So no, in 2036 we are unable to travel back 1,000 years due to the error rate in the system. The divergence between the world line of origin and the target world line would be too great. If one were to try and travel back that far, history would look nothing like what you would expect. In other words, if I wanted to go back 2,000 years and meet Christ, there is a better than average chance I would end up on a world line where he was never born.
Hold on. One of those pictures, it looked like a bucket seat with a seatbelt.
Yep, that's
Okay, so I did see this one. What year would you guys travel to if you could? Personally, I would go back to whenever Bitcoin was invented and buy a shitload of Bitcoin. Just saying. Yeah, go back to time to the 90s and give myself advice. Yeah, me too. Skager, if I can't do the full country life, I'm allergic to hay and grass. Ah, it sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. Iris says 70s love music and weed. Yep. Mm-hmm. Best answer. I didn't even think of that. Yep. I'd buy a shitload of, go back and buy a shitload of Bitcoin and invest in a number of companies, including Amazon in 1995, and buy like half the shares of the damn company. Do you have any idea if you just knew the basics of what you know today and you went back in time, like say 30 years, you could invest in Bitcoin, you could invest in companies like Amazon and like a bunch of other startups that are going to get big between the 90s and the 2000s. You hold on to that stock, jump back forward, suddenly you're a multi-billionaire and you had to do absolutely friggin' nothing.
It's because on John Titor's first trip, the time machine was mounted inside a 67 Chevy.
No, I guess a DeLorean is too on the nose.
Well, the reason for the Chevy and why John later moved the machine to a truck is because the C-204 is heavy. It needs a vehicle with a suspension that can handle the weight. Plus, the time machine has to be mobile. Since it only travels through time and not space, you have to drive to your physical destination first and then move through time. He chose those vehicles because they blend into the times he was traveling to.
No, did he say what it feels like to time travel? Like, does it hurt? Does your face get all stretchy?
Well, John Titor does talk about this.
The gravity field generated by the unit overtakes you very quickly. You feel a tug toward the unit similar to rising quickly in an elevator, and it continues to rise based on the power setting the unit is working under. At 100% power, the constant pull of gravity can be as high as 2 Gs or more, depending on how close you are to the unit. There are no serious side effects, but I try to avoid eating before a flight. No bright flash of light is seen. Outside, the vehicle appears to accelerate as the light is bent around it. We have to wear sunglasses or close our eyes, as this happens due to a short burst of ultraviolet radiation. Personally, I think it looks like you're driving under a rainbow. After that, it appears to fade to black and remains totally black until the unit is turned off. We're advised to keep the windows closed as a great deal of heat builds up outside the car. The gravity field also traps a small air pocket around the car that acts as your only O2 supply, unless you bring compressed air with you.
2 Gs, ugh. I can never time travel because of my IBS.
That's TMI.
No, it's IBS.
Never mind. Naturally, people were skeptical of all this technology, but John Titor didn't really care.
My goal is not to be believed. Most people do not take news of the war very well, but I find that everyone believes it's inevitable. I watch every day what you are doing as a society. While you sit by and watch your constitution being torn away from you, you willfully eat poisoned food, buy manufactured products no one needs, and turn an uncaring eye away from millions of people suffering and dying all around you. Perhaps I should let you all in on a little secret. No one likes you in the future. This time period is looked at as being full of lazy, self-centered, civically ignorant sheep. Perhaps you should be less concerned about me and more concerned about that.
I'm sorry. What? Yeah, I appreciate the hecklefish. Yeah. Okay, hang on. We need to go back. I want to go back and I want to re-listen to this. So please, let's please pay attention to what he says in this section.
Really care.
My goal is not to be believed. Most people do not take news of the war very well, but I find that everyone believes it's inevitable. I watch every day what you are doing as a society. While you sit by and watch your constitution being torn away from you, you willfully eat poisoned food, buy manufactured products no one needs, and turn an uncaring eye away from millions of people suffering and dying all around you. Perhaps I should...
Does that sound familiar much? Sounds awful lot like what we're currently dealing with. Let's see, where is it? I watch every day what you are doing as a society while you sit by and watch here as your constitution is being torn away from you. You willfully eat poison food, buy manufactured products no one needs, and turn an uncaring
Turn an
eye
uncaring eye away from millions of people suffering
away from millions of people suffering
and dying all
around you. I'm sorry, what? That sounds an awful lot like foreshadowing there. Hey, what's going on, traveling fools? What's going on? Mustang says Romans had public bathhouses. Yeah, remember he said that the machine couldn't really go forward or backward more than maybe 60 years, though. So you are limited in that. Yeah, it sounds like the Daily News. Yeah. And even he goes on to say that, yeah, you people are not well looked upon in the future, as in our generation. Maybe we should get a handle on that. Just saying. Mexican Vader says, on one hand, it's very convincing. On the other hand, that's been happening for decades, so I see the pattern recognition that he's just called out. I agree. There is a degree of that at hand there. But, nobody's going to do anything unless it gets called out.
you. Perhaps I should let you all in on a little secret. No one likes you in the future. This time period is looked at as being full of lazy, self-centered, civically ignorant sheep. Perhaps you should be less concerned about me and more concerned about that.
He makes a lot of good points, but there's no reason to be a dick about it.
John Titor's face was never seen, his voice was never heard, and John Titor is not his real name, so there's not much we know about him. But one person did have a close relationship with John, or at least claimed to. Pamela Moore. Pamela was very active on the message boards and spent a lot of time chatting with John over IM. Before John Titor left, he said he would make a departure video and send it to Pamela.
How's she supposed to know the video's legit?
Well, because John provided Pamela with a secret song to act as a password. This is something only the two of them know, so she could identify imposters. And to this day, the departure video has not arrived, and Pamela has never revealed the secret song. On March 24th, 2001, John Titor would leave his final message and some words of wisdom.
I will be leaving this world line shortly, and this will be my final post.
Okay, Mustang McCracken says, go back in time, stop the JFK assassins just to see what happens. You know what? I think a lot of the problems that we have go back to that time and that timeline. I'm down for it. Because, hell, the only reason that JFK was taken out was because he was going to abolish the CIA. He was going to abolish the CIA, the FBI, because they had become too corrupt. And, well, guess what he got for his trouble? A 3,000 foot per second lobotomy. I'm not Obama. No way. Soviets would probably win. CIA would get him eventually, just like MLK. Yep, that too. And no, I'm not part of the CIA. Wouldn't change history. It happened for a reason, in my opinion. Yeah, definitely be some crazy Command and Conquer stuff. Yeah, I agree.
There are only a handful of people who will know exactly when I will be leaving, and I'm sure they will let you know when I'm gone. In the last few days, I have found your choice of topics quite interesting. And from an objective viewpoint, I think it collectively answers one of your own questions. If time travel is real, where are all the time travelers? In the past, I've stated that, quite frankly, you all scare the hell out of me. And I'm sure other temporal drivers would feel the same. But now I have an expanded explanation. A while ago, I related an experience I had with my parents while we were driving down a highway. Every now and then, we would pass someone who was in obvious distress with their vehicle. I was amazed that so many people could pass them without stopping to help. Their explanation was fear. The risk of helping someone was too great, and with today's technology, they probably had a cell phone anyway. If they didn't, the walk to a gas station would be good for them and teach them a lesson for running out of gas. This is why time travelers do not show themselves. In trying to help you, we put ourselves at great risk, and there's really no point to it. I already know you won't pay any attention or believe me because we've already been through it on this world line. Besides, I think the walk to the gas station will do you some good. I also want to thank Pamela for helping me with the email and everyone else who asked intelligent and insightful questions. I have learned a great deal. My parting thought revolves around something JC has been harping on since day one. No, I do not have a secret agenda, but I've been paying a great deal of attention to your world line. My interaction with you was not a direct mission parameter, but it was a secondary mission protocol based on standing orders given to all temporal drivers. That secondary objective is basically to gather as much information about a world line based on a set of observable variables when we first arrive. Your world line met those conditions. What amazes me is why no one here wonders why Y2K didn't hit them at all. Bring a gas can with you when the car dies on the side of the road. Farewell, John.
And John Titor was gone and hasn't been heard from since. But that was really just the beginning of the legend. When the John Titor story first landed in 2001, it was a sensation. But as the years went on, we've been able to see the accuracy of John's predictions. John predicted a civil war in the United States that would begin in 2005. Obviously, that didn't happen. But you can make the case that America has never been more divided than it is today.
Thanks, Twitter.
20% of adults in a recent survey said they believe a civil war is likely within the next 10 years. That's a high percentage. And John Titor predicted a nuclear war in 2015, and that too didn't happen. But considering current world events, the last time we were this close to nuclear war was the Cuban Missile Crisis. I actually think we're in more danger now. He predicted there would be no Olympic Games after 2004. Now, he was wrong about that, but there were no 2020 Olympics. John Titor did get a few things right. There was a mad cow disease outbreak in the early 2000s.
It's America's first confirmed case of bovine spongiform encephalitis in 6 years. BSE is mad cow disease, a potentially deadly brain-wasting infection that can be transferred to humans.
When John Titor was posting in early 2001, most people were still accessing the internet with a dial-up modem. John said in the future, the internet would look more like the current cell phone system. That's exactly right. He said that in the future, the entertainment industry would be decentralized, and anyone would be able to create video which could be watched by many people. More people watch YouTube than watch the networks or even go to the movies. John Titor was right again. He predicted breakthroughs in high-energy physics at CERN. In 2013, the Higgs boson was confirmed. Stephen Hawking originally thought that everything that enters a black hole disappears forever. Titor said that Stephen Hawking made a mistake about this. Stephen Hawking did later change his mind. Now, many of these predictions could be dismissed as educated guesses by someone who was intelligent and knew a lot about science and technology. But there's no denying that John Titor was right. As for the predictions John Titor got wrong, true believers, and there are still a lot of those, always fall back on the many worlds theory. Sure, many of John Titor's predictions were wrong in our timeline, but they came true in other timelines, and there's no way to prove this wrong. But if you look closely at the John Titor story, you do find inconsistencies. You also find convenient coincidences. And because of these problems with the story, many believe that John Titor was a hoax. And if that's true, then who was the real John Titor? Well, there are a few suspects. Whenever anyone does a story about John Titor and who he actually may be, there are a few names that always pop up. The first is Joseph Matheny. He's described as a writer and transmedia artist, and he's mostly known for Ong's Hat, which was one of the first alternate reality or real-time interactive games. And Matheny makes a good case. He said that he, along with 3 other people, developed the John Titor story as a fun experiment to see if they could develop an internet myth.
Mission accomplished.
Matheny won't divulge who the other 3 people are because they're pretty high up in the entertainment industry and have reputations to protect. But a lot of the story tracks. Matheny says the time machine we see in the fuzzy photos was created by a prop designer who's worked on major movies. And John Titor fans have been able to identify pieces of the time machine that are actually real things. Matheny says the reason the messages often have different tones is because they were written by different people on the team. Matheny was responsible for character development. And the reason that John Titor's story is so similar to John Connor's is because it was intentional. And I've heard and read some interviews with Matheny, and at first I was skeptical. Initially, I didn't think he had the tech or science background to flesh out the details in the John Titor story. I was very wrong. Matheny was involved in tech since the 80s. He worked with Adobe and Netscape in the early days and holds a few patents. Also, his game Ong's Hat had references to theoretical physics. He had the tech chops and a track record in creating online myths. He could have definitely pulled this off. Still, I'd love to see hard evidence. Matheny won't provide any. And when asked, he gets pretty annoyed. He says, believe him or don't, he doesn't care. I think that after 20 years, he's sick of people asking him about John Titor. But there are more people to look at. The other name that comes up in the John Titor story is Larry Haber and the Haber brothers. Larry Haber is a Florida-based entertainment attorney. He claims to represent John Titor's mom, Kay, and the Titor family.
Hey, how does a lawyer sleep?
I don't know how.
Oh, first he lies on one side, and then he lies on the other.
Good one. Now, I've seen and read a number of interviews with Larry Haber. He definitely does not have the technology or science background to create John Titor. But his brothers do. Richard Haber is an IT administrator, and Maury Haber is a very senior cybersecurity professional. Maury also has a lot of experience writing about technology. And if you go down the John Titor rabbit hole on YouTube, you'll eventually run into a channel called Hoax Hunter, run by John Rasmus Houston, and I'll link to his channel below. Now, John has done a ton of research on the subject. He's tracked P.O. boxes, he's done text comparisons of Maury Haber's writing to John Titor's posts, he's tracked all the usernames from John Titor's message board. I mean, this is exhaustive research. He's convinced that John Titor is actually Maury Haber, who eventually enlisted his lawyer brother to represent the story.
And what does a lawyer get when you give him Viagra?
What?
Taller!
Have a problem with lawyers, do you?
I've been divorced 3 times. What do you think?
Larry Haber has been attached to John Titor for years. Not only does he claim to represent the Titor family, in 2003, he registered the John Titor Foundation, LLC, a for-profit business. And this LLC published John Titor's posts as a book called A Time Traveler's Tale. Larry Haber also registered John Titor as a trademark in 2007.
So this lawyer claims to represent the Titor family, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's got businesses and books and is making money from this thing?
That's right.
Isn't that a conflict of interest?
I think it is, but I guess Larry Haber and the Titor family are okay with it. He won't say.
Hey, how do you get a lawyer out of a tree?
How?
Cut the rope.
Joseph Matheny said he had someone reach out to the publisher of Larry Haber's book and get it pulled. Larry Haber can't confirm that Matheny did this, but he did confirm that the book is out of print and doesn't know why.
So this Matheny guy torpedo the lawyer?
That's what it looks like.
Nah, he's okay in my book. Hey, what do you have when a lawyer is buried up to his neck in sand?
What do you have?
Not enough sand. I got a billion of them. Petey.
In Larry Haber's defense, even though he represents the Titor family, he doesn't claim to believe the story. He says he doesn't know one way or the other and doesn't care. He's just working for his client.
And making money from his client.
Yeah, and that. Pamela Moore said she was sent a copy of Larry Haber's book, signed by John with a song quoted at the end.
Was it the secret song?
Nope.
How do you know if a lawyer is lying? His
lips
lips
are
are
moving.
moving.
Over 20 years later, and the John Titor story still fascinates people. Honestly, I had never considered doing the story because it's been done so many times, but it's one of the most requested topics on the channel. I think the reason we love time travel stories is because it all comes down to possibilities and opportunities. A story about a possible future, especially such a frightening one, gives us an opportunity to reflect on our present and choose a path to avoid that dark future, or it gives us a chance to prepare for it. Think of how useful it would be if someone came back from that future to warn us, to give us the exact steps to follow to ensure our survival. Well, before John Titor disappeared, he did just that.
Do not eat or use products from any animal that is fed and eats parts of its own dead. Do not kiss or have intimate relations with anyone you do not know. Learn basic sanitation and water purification. Be comfortable around firearms. Learn to shoot and clean a gun. Get a good first aid kit and learn to use it. Find 5 people within 100 miles that you trust with your life and stay in contact with them. Get a copy of the U.S. Constitution and read it. Eat less. Get a bicycle and 2 sets of spare tires. Ride it 10 miles a week. Consider what you would bring with you if you had to leave your home in 10 minutes and never return.
Now, I don't know if the story of John Titor is real. I don't think we'll ever know. But still, my family is taking his advice. We've got the first aid kit, the bicycle, and lots of ammo. We're prepared for the future that John described, at least as best as we can be. And it's okay if you don't believe that John Titor is from the future. It's a story that anyone will be skeptical of. But be skeptical of John Titor at your own risk. Me? I'm not willing to take a chance.
All right. And that is that. Oops. That is John Titor and the government, U.S. government time traveler. So, last thing we got to look over a little bit here is actually a little bit of that manual that I talked about. So let me see if I can embiggen. Okay. There, it's about as good as I'm going to get it. So this is according to the PDF copy of his C204 time or gravity distortion time displacement unit. So yeah, he goes through a long and very lengthy description, which I will definitely go ahead and post to my Discord for anybody who wants to actually dissect it in more detail and go through it. But yeah, he provides a lot of visuals, a lot of documentation, information, and yeah, even a lot of his emails that he shared with other people where he talked about what's going on, what happened, what is the future like, how does the machine work. It is a long, long document. But how many times have you ever gotten an opportunity to see where someone comes up with a crazy story, but then they come up with a crazy story and they actually provide documentation? It's a rare thing. All right. And with that, say thanks. I'm that Obama. Interesting story. Thanks. And Mexican says, in my opinion, there's nothing more generic, more than generic good advice that everyone should know and be able to do. Yeah, well, you know, the old saying about common sense and uncommon thing and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, just saying. When was that time displacement document written? Let's see. I don't think there's an exact date on when it was. Oh yeah, March 21st, 2034. That is what is allegedly on there is March 21st, 2034. But what's even more interesting is revised from March 6th, 1995, revised September 21st, looks like I would say 2014 or maybe 2034, then revised July 30th, 2034, revised March 21st, 2034. Yeah, I have some questions. Yep, General Electric Army Model C204 Gravity Distortion Time Displacement Unit is what it's called. Yeah. As for when it was compiled, I don't think I have an exact documentation on that. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and drop a copy of this into my Discord server. So that way, if you want to join my Discord, you can just go to the pinned comment and you can find my link tree. My link tree has an up-to-date link to my Discord, and you can join my Discord server. And I will definitely be dropping those links in the unexplained area of the chat. John Titor. Gravity. Why is my garage door going up? The wife must be up to something. Gravity distortion time displacement unit. There we go. The link to the PDF is actually in the Discord server right now. Yeah, it's the big garage door though. I mean, it was definitely closed, and I just heard it go down again. So yeah, I'll go check that out in a little bit. But I mean, I'm fine. All right. I'm not one says I might have to finally join a Discord for that. Yeah, it's worth it. And I just updated the information, and yeah, you can go ahead and look it up. It's right here. Font is interesting within that document PDF. Yeah, it looks like standard, like almost like the old teleprinters. I'm not entirely sure, but definitely kind of looks like that. Anyway, folks, that is all I have for tonight. We got a bit of a short show today, so I appreciate every single one of you coming on out, hanging out, and coming to join the chat and doing a fun show. This is one that I've teased for quite a while. So I'm really glad that we had an opportunity to really cover this one, and I'm glad that you all enjoyed it. I mean, I hope you enjoyed it anyway. And so now we get to the point in the show where we get to vote on the next episode of The Edge of Reality. So, if anybody's got any suggestions, I would say go ahead and submit those to the chat, or also go ahead and post those in the Discord server. And yeah, that way you can go ahead and find those. I see that Ghostery is in there. Hey, Ghostery. Fantastic. And let's see. I'm going to go ahead and, I think what I may go ahead and do is I may just make a post on the YouTube for with a poll of different topics. But yeah, if you have anything to go ahead and suggest, yeah, definitely go ahead and feel free to definitely drop me a comment, send me a message, or whatever the case may be. Oh, Jude says Haunted Archer Avenue. I am not familiar with that one. Okay, I'm going to have to do some research on that. Thanks, Traveling Fools. Traveling Fools says, great show. History says, great show. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. All right. Ghoster says, yes, I'm in Discord too. Yeah. All right, folks. Thank you all so much for watching. If I can not choke on my own spit, good Lord, that's nasty. I appreciate y'all coming out and hanging to the end of the video. Please definitely go down there and hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate y'all, and you are all amazing people. I've got videos. I'm trying to get out 5 days a week. I've hit a little bit of a snag with being sick, but I'm going to start getting those out again. And yeah, I will go ahead and just call it there. For those of you on the replay crew, don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe. We appreciate everybody coming out to hang out. You've got different ways that you can support the channel directly. There's, ways you could donate through the Cash App or use the Super Thanks or Super Chat features, pick up a membership, or even, you know what? I say there is a link to the merch store if you actually find anything in there that you seem to like. But hey, as I always say, nothing is required. Everything is appreciated. And I'm not going to push that any further because I don't like doing it. And yeah. Anywho. Let's see there. Real last minute. Not to Obama says that story about lights appearing along train tracks in the mountains. Can't remember where it is, but that's interesting. Okay. Thank you. All right. And that is all for tonight. I will see you all on the next video. And I will also see you probably, hopefully, tomorrow morning on the after party with Ozzy Overlord. And yeah, I've got tomorrow off. So yeah, it might be 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, but I'm going to be cracking a tube with Ozzy and probably Jeff, watching some football and having a good time. See y'all. Have a great night. Peace.
You ever wonder why we're here? You ever notice that the information that we're being fed doesn't always add up to the truth? Do you ever look out your window at night when the rain's falling down? You ever look down the street and wonder what is going on around you? You ever look out at night and ask yourself, is this all that I am? Where am I? What am I? Is this all there is? Is this real life? As technology continues to bring us closer together, it also tears us further apart. We watch the skies and look at the planet around us and its natural beauty as it continues to march forward on and on and on, unending, unceasing, unwavering. And yet our world, everything that we've built, crumbles around us. We wonder, is this it? Is there more? There's got to be. We can search. We want to learn. We want to understand. We want to see all that we can see, know all that we can know. We want to look out there. We want to peek behind the veil. We want to ask the questions that nobody will answer. We want to light those fires, the sparks that ignite a curiosity in us. And we ask ourselves, what is out beyond all of that? Beyond